All right. Good morning, and welcome to episode 7 of the Powerpuff Babes podcast, where sugar meets spice and everything nice. We're your hosts, Allie, Mo, and Kat. Like we said at the end of last episode, since last Wednesday was the paranormal episode and we had to cancel, we've decided to move it to today, and next Wednesday we'll resume with the true crime episode. So sit back, relax, grab some snacks, and enjoy our creepy haunting tales. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, I have a very creepy story that honestly would freak me the fuck out if I was this person. So, mine is called, like I said last episode, The Woman in White. Um, the story is about a man named Jason Hawkins. It takes place at first, it starts in Anaheim when Jason is 8 years old. So, here we go. All right. So, since his family wasn't well off and his dad was a trucker, they were constantly moving. One day, while at a restaurant next to the motel that they were staying at, a man ran out of one of the rooms butt naked and covered in blood. The man took the fire axe of the motel and he hit a man in the parking lot in the back of the head and he killed him. The man ran at the restaurant that him and his family were at, and the patrons held the door closed until the cops came. When the cops came, when the cops finally arrived, they shot the man and they killed him. Jason and his family witnessed the entire thing. At the time, Jason was 7, just about 8. After the traumatic event, Jason's family moved to an apartment in Anaheim. When they moved in, Jason says he recalls the neighbors looking at them weirdly. They weren't greeted and they weren't made to feel welcome, but the neighbors weren't angry that they were there. Once they moved in and get settled, Jason talks about how he didn't really feel comfortable, but he didn't know why. He said it started with the closet doors. He would close them at night, and when he would turn his back, they would open again. Within weeks, he started to get a really uncomfortable feeling. Around the time he started to get the feeling, he would hear voices calling his name. It started as whispering, things like, "Who's in there?" and "Where are you?" along with his name. He went to his mom and told her he had been hearing people talking and asked if his parents had been calling him. They blew it off and said it was probably his imagination or the neighbors or the TV, and just to not worry about it. He also tried telling his friends what was going on, but they all just laughed at him. So eventually, Jason just stopped talking about it altogether. After more time of the same things, the occurrences had started to get worse. He learned from his parents that he had begun to sleepwalk. At this point, the closet doors were opening, he was hearing voices, and now he was sleepwalking. As more and more occurs, Jason feels as though things are about to get really bad. He also realizes that the feeling he gets is coming from the closet. So he decides to keep the doors closed and locked. One night, as he's laying in bed to sleep, he hears the closet doors start to rattle. Suddenly they stop and the doors slowly start to open. Once they open, Jason sees a woman hanging in his closet. She's wearing white. This was the first time he saw her, but it was far from the last. He didn't know who she was or what she wanted, but he could feel her hatred. He said it was overpowering. This occurrence was happening every night. He was trying so hard at this point to get someone to help him, but he was just a child and no one was listening. As a last resort, Jason goes to his father. When he tries to tell his father, he became annoyed and angry, and he slapped Jason in the face. Jason's father was an alcoholic, so, that kind of explains his extreme overreaction to his son coming to him and telling him that there's something in his closet. After this, he realized that no one was going to help. Soon after, things started to get even worse. The next night, as Jason was in bed, he heard the closet doors rattling again. And then suddenly, they opened. Hanging there again was the woman in white. But tonight was different. As she looked at him, her rope snapped and she fell to the floor. She then started to crawl towards him and reach out to him.
No. Sorry.
Jason, overwhelmed with fear and feelings of her and his own, he fainted. The woman was no longer stuck in his closet. This was the new nightly routine of her opening the closet and crawling towards him. Prepared to do whatever he could, Jason took his friend's dad's advice and tried to go to church. Jason was lost and desperate, so he asked to get baptized, and once he did, he said he started to feel a little bit better. He would pray and he would go to Bible study, but yet the woman would still appear. Eventually, Jason lost faith in God and he started to question him. How could this happen to me? Why is this still happening to me? Who can help me? This happened to him every night for 6 years, and he could get no one to believe him. One day, after being so desperate, Jason and a friend got a Ouija board from a garage sale, and they contacted the spirit. All she said was, "hurt you," over and over. Not sure why you would get a Ouija board, but besides the point. We're gonna move past that. The next night, as Jason is in the bath, he hallucinates that the tub is being filled with blood, and in fear, he accidentally cuts himself and starts to bleed. He gets out, and his mom comes in the bathroom, and she cleans up. And one more time, he tries to tell her what's going on. His mom says nothing, but she gives him this look, and in that moment, he knew that she was aware. He believes that she might have been in denial about everything that was going on, and because his family was so poor and not very well off, he thought that his parents might have been worried that if they had talked to anybody or if Jason had made too much noise or said anything bad about the apartment complex, that they would get kicked out. So he thinks that his parents ignored him and didn't say anything in fear of getting kicked out. After a couple years, his dad's drinking had gotten worse and his mom got pregnant with his little brother. His mom then pushed for them to move back to Bakersfield, where they had family and things were cheaper. Jason was happy they were finally leaving. As they're moving their things out, Jason overhears the maintenance man say, "I'm surprised you guys lasted that long." Jason remembers being extremely confused and asking what he meant by that. Jason then found out that the lady who lived there before they moved in murdered her 2 kids in the bathtub and hung herself in the closet. They moved in within a week of that happening. The maintenance man was replacing the linoleum in the bathroom because of the blood of her children, and the carpet in the closet because of her blood, and the fact that she hadn't been found for days. Jason then came to the realization that everyone knew about his situation for 6 years. His family, his friends' parents, and his neighbors, and the landlord. And he was extremely upset that he had been tormented, tortured, and abused by the woman in white for no reason. Later on, they moved to their new home in Bakersfield, and Jason starts to feel so much better. He started school, he made friends, and things were looking better. A little time had gone by with nothing going on, and Jason finally let his guard down. One night, as Jason and his friend were riding their bikes through the fog, he saw her. Frozen in fear and not paying attention, Jason rode his bike into the middle of the street and got hit by a car. He was completely fine, other than just a little, bumps and bruises. But that's when Jason realized that she had attached herself to him, not the apartment complex. And she had just taken time to find him and show herself again. They get back to his friend's house, and they tell his mom that they need to get an ambulance for him. His friend's mom is completely checked out, staring forward. She's not really saying anything. She just seems to be not all there. They stand there for a couple minutes, begging his mom to call an ambulance. She turns her head, to Jason. She stands up angrily. She looks at him, but stares past him, and she says, "You're supposed to be dead," over and over. Jason says that he believes that his friend's mom was a conduit for the entity, and that she was speaking through her. Jason realized that this wasn't going to stop, and not knowing what else to do and worried about those he loved, he ran away. And he didn't stop moving. He thought if he didn't stay somewhere for long enough, the entity wouldn't be able to find him. But then he met a girl. He stayed with her, and they started a relationship, and eventually they had their daughter. A couple years had passed and nothing was going on, and Jason thought that maybe, just maybe, he had finally gotten away from the entity. One night, as he's leaving his job, he turns his back to lock the door. When he looks back out towards the parking lot, she's there. She's staring at him, and he can just feel this overwhelming sense of hatred and anger. And with him looking at her and her looking at him, he passes out. Jason wakes up by being shocked by paramedics. He learns that he didn't pass out, but that he had died and was brought back to life. The doctor at the hospital told him that he had died of dehydration and heat stroke. Her presence and her feelings and emotions and everything forced onto him basically accelerated his heart rate to the point in which she had killed him. Jason says that when he woke up in the hospital, he remembers feeling this huge sense of relief. He didn't feel connected to her for the first time since first grade. She got what she wanted. He had died. After many years of thought, Jason came to the conclusion that the woman thought he was her child, who was supposed to be dead, and she was just trying to finish what she had started. Unfortunately, the story does not come with a happy ending. As of Jason telling this story on the episode that I watched, he had seen her a couple days prior. After years and years of nothing and thinking it was over, she was back. He woke up that night, and she was there next to the bed. He could feel the hatred yet again while she stared at him. Cheating death was not going to work. To this day, Jason is still dealing with the woman in white.
That's creepy.
That's fucking terrifying.
That's insanely creepy.
He is a grown man. She has been following him since he was 8.
What, 8? Oh my god.
Yep. And she's still there. And she's powerful enough to make him pass out and die. So there you go.
Oh my god.
And so he like, the episode is him like telling his family and friends finally, because he's like, she's back and she might try to kill me for good this time.
Oh my god.
He's living his life in fear yet again.
That's so sad and terrifying.
Yeah, I was like, watching that episode, I was like, I would hate for this to happen to me. Like, that's terrifying. Like, what can you do? Being brought back to life doesn't do anything.
Old. And this
Literally.
woman's crawling out of your closet.
Dude, that's the creepy
dead.
shit. Sorry,
Why
that's why I like reacted that way.
Yeah, no, when he explained that shit was like, what the fuck? Like, at first, she was just hanging there, but she would look at him. And then that night, she had gotten powerful enough, I guess, off of just being there long enough, his fear, whatever, that the rope had snapped and she was able to, like, attach herself to him. And she, like, crawled out of the closet and, like, reached out to him. And I
sounds like
hated
the
it.
rope snapping was her disconnecting from the house and attaching herself to him.
Yeah, I think that's what it was too.
Insanely scary.
Because he explained it as her like falling because the rope snapped, and then she reached out to him, And as she reached out to him, he had passed out. So I think him passing out was them getting connected. Like he was vulnerable at that point, so she had connected herself to him.
That's scary.
And now she's just with him, and he saw her again. And I don't know when that episode was filmed, but yeah, he now has her in his life permanently, pretty much. Like he can't do anything about it but actually die. So
dang, dude,
I would hate my life. Yeah.
And she, like, he has absolutely no relations to her.
Absolutely no relations. It's just a random woman who lived there who had killed her children and killed herself a week before they had moved in. Completely unrelated.
Oh,
she just attached herself to him. Yep. They let them move in a week after she had done everything.
The apartment or wherever they
Yep. And then he was extremely upset when he found out that like everybody knew that and they just let them move in anyways.
Wow.
Like they were still replacing the floor and the carpet in the closet in the bathroom and let them move in. Yep. And he was dealing with this for 6 years. And even though people knew, they didn't believe him when he told them that there was a woman hanging in his closet.
Yeah.
And it's like, they knew how she died, how she killed herself, and when he told them, they didn't believe him. Or, well, he thinks his dad didn't believe him, but his mom was, like, in denial that, like, there's no way this could, you know, be true.
Right.
But after the night in the tub and things just getting a little bit weirder, that's when his mom was like, let's move.
Right.
But by then it had already been 6 years in that apartment, so.
That's creepy, dude.
Fuck that. Like, I have already, like, this huge irrational fear of, like, you know, the paranormal. And I even remember having a dream that I woke up and my house was haunted, and I always told myself, my house is haunted, I'm moving out that same day. And I had that dream where I was like, my house is haunted, I gotta go, we gotta go, fuck it, chop chop, let's go. And everybody was like, why? And I'm like, what do you mean, why?
Why?
Yeah, that's one thing about like horror movies. The first Get Out I see on the wall, I'm packing my bags. Like, why are y'all fighting for this house? Just leave it.
Right.
You can find a new one. It's not that serious.
It ain't worth it.
It's not. It's never worth it.
But your grandma grew up here. Fuck grandma, let's go.
Fuck grandma. It probably is grandma. She wants us out of her fucking house.
Y'all been here long enough.
What are y'all doing fighting an entity? What's wrong with y'all?
Oh my god.
They're always gonna win. All right, who's next for their spooky, scary story?
Well, I have the Winchester Mansion, and that's like, I decided to talk about that one because that's like obviously one of the most famous like paranormal stories out there. So I'm going to begin by talking about who owned the home. And I'm gonna start with Sarah. So her name, like her full name, was Sarah Lockwood Pardee. She was born in New Haven around 1840. And she was the fifth out of 7 children born to Leonard Pardee and Sarah Burns. Young Sarah's most distinguishing characteristic was that she was everything but ordinary. She was a child prodigy and considered to be quite beautiful. At the age of 12, Sarah was already fluent in Latin, French, Spanish, and Italian languages. Her knowledge of the classics such as Homer and Shakespeare were remarkable. And she also had a remarkable talent as a musician, was also well noticed. She was eventually dubbed the Belle of New Haven. Excuse me. So she met William. So according to the historical documents, the Winchesters and the Pardees were well acquainted. Sarah and William's sister Annie were classmates at the Young Ladies Collegiate Institute. Not far away, William attended New Haven's Collegiate and Commercial Institute, where one of William's teachers was also Sarah's teachers, and one of Sarah's cousins also attended the same college as William. So at some point, they were bound to meet. Sarah and William eventually found themselves studying the same curriculum. They got married on September 30th of 1862, and giving birth to their only child, Anna Pardee Winchester, on July 12th, 1866. Unfortunately, Annie died 40 days later due to a disease known as marasmus. It is a severe form of malnutrition due to the body's inability to metabolize proteins. In 1880, Oliver Fisher Winchester, William's father, died, leaving the succession of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company to his only son, William, the same company that created the Winchester rifle. 1 year later, William died of tuberculosis at the age of 43, leaving an inheritance of $20 million plus
God
nearly
damn.
50% of the Winchester arms stock to Sarah, making her one of the wealthiest women in the world at the time. It is said that because of the loss of her only child and husband, Sarah sought the advice of many mediums and spiritualists in Boston to better understand the deaths of her family. I have a couple of theories as to what was said between a particular medium and Sarah, but first let's talk about the house. Sarah purchased an 8-room farm home along with 161 acres of farmland in San Jose, California. She immediately hired a crew of approximately 20 carpenters and began the implementation of a vast building project that lasted until her death 38 years later. For 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the carpenters and other workers had rotating shifts to continuously build onto the home. With Sarah as their only architect, the house gradually grew upward and outward, reaching as high as 7 stories and consisting of over 500 to 600 rooms. Due to the 1906 earthquake, the house had to be reduced to 4 stories, and Sarah was refrained from building any higher than that. There are maze-like corridors and twisting hallways, some of which have dead ends, forcing everyone who walked through to turn around. There are rooms within rooms. There is a staircase that leads nowhere, a door which opens into a solid wall. There are also tiny doors leading into large spaces and large doors that lead into very small spaces. In another part of the house, a second-story door opens outward to a sheer drop to the ground below. Adding further to the mysterious features, the numbers 7, 11, and 13 are repeatedly displayed in various ways throughout the house. These numbers consistently show up in the number of windows in many of the rooms, or the number of stairs in the staircases, or the number of rails on the railings, or the number of panels in the floors, the number of lights in the chandelier, etc. Sarah infused the numbers 7 and 11 into the architecture because they are lucky numbers, or considered to be lucky numbers, and 13 she used to ward off the evil spirits. She also slept in different rooms every night as an extra measure to throw the spirits off her trail. When news came around about Mrs. Winchester's death, construction on the house came to a halt, leaving nails half driven into walls and other areas unfinished. In accordance with her 12-page, 13-part will, which was signed by her 13 times, Sarah had her entire estate divided up in generous portions to be distributed among a number of charities and those people who had faithfully spent years in her service. Her favorite niece and secretary, Marian Marriott, oversaw the removal and the sale of all of Sarah's furnishings and personal property. Roy Lieb, Mrs. Winchester's attorney of many years, had been named in her will as an executor to her estate. He sold the house to the people who, in 1933, preserved it as a living museum. Today, it is known as the Winchester Mystery House, also known as California Historical Landmark number 868. Um, the one theory that I've seen the most being reported is that after William's death in 1881, the highly distraught Mrs. Winchester sought the advice of then famous Boston medium Adam Coons. During a seance with Adam, Sarah was told that because of the many people who had been slain by the Winchester rifle, she was cursed by the Winchester fortune. Adams further instructed Sarah that the angry spirits demanded that she move to California and build them a house. Sarah began holding her own seances every midnight so that she could receive the next day building instructions from the spirits. Her seances allegedly involved the use of a Ouija board and a planchette and 13 various colored robes she ritualistically wore every night within the confines of her seance room, also known as the Blue Room. There is supposed to be a room that had like multiple fireplaces, and people were saying that those fireplaces she would light up every night to help with her reported arthritis. And there were also reports saying that she herself was the one who was haunted, but nobody really knew why. And I believe that's all the theories that they had on that. But I know for sure the one that was mostly reported was that her family was the one who was cursed altogether because of the Winchester rifle. But yeah, that's all I've got.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that one. I remember the theory about the family was cursed because of the rifles so what was it that the people who died from the rifles haunted the family or something?
Yes.
And then they're the reason why they died, and that she had to keep building,
Or else
otherwise
she
she would die.
died. Yes.
Yeah. That shit was wild.
That's literally crazy. I mean, that's an explanation to like why half the shit in the house makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because like she was literally just building to stay alive. Like they didn't say she had to build meaningful, purposeful things. She just had to build to be alive.
Exactly.
So doors that go nowhere, doors that drop off, rooms that are small behind big doors, rooms that are big behind small doors. We just weird shit. I mean, it's totally believable.
As a
It's so
matter of
She's just
fact,
strange.
building.
yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, that from I don't know how true this is, but there were according to people, like according to a certain amount of people, um the whole building, like continuous building, was mainly because the spirits had told her, if you finish this like project that you've got going for us, we'll then explain to you why your family died, and it wasn't because of the Winchester rifle.
Mm.
Damn.
And to this day, I don't think they've mentioned anything else.
Yeah. That's
So
crazy.
I don't know. That's a big old building though.
Right?
I saw a couple
It is.
pictures, and it's huge and it's confusing.
Yep.
Imagine if they kept those 7 stories. Or like,
Dude.
yeah, imagine that earthquake didn't happen.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that was insane.
It'd be a huge place, and that'd be crazy.
Imagine being in fear for like 38 years or so, like
Mm-hmm.
continuously every day, like your everyday norm. Instead of like hearing birds outside, you just hear hammering.
Yeah.
Literally. Can't stop building.
Well, I have, I decided to pick a story. Well, it's a story and also an experience that I personally had. This is the one place that's here in Houston. It's called the Patterson Road. It's I've been to it like twice.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time was not of my free will. Well, It was. I was more like convinced to go, but um so it's called the Haunted Patterson Road Bridge. So this was around like the Civil War era, so it's like the Civil War was extremely bloody and it was devastating, and it claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of U.S. soldiers. And with a path that left many dead in its wake, there are many places that are said to be haunted by the spirits of those soldiers who may still be looking for peace. And numerous spots in the U.S. are said to be haunted by the ghosts of the Civil War, including the haunted Patterson Road. There is some dispute as to what happened near the creek and the site of the future bridge. The general agrees that the Civil War soldiers engaged in some kind of skirmish or battle on the site, but one story suggests that it was the site of a German settlement that was pro-Union. The settlers were ousted and killed by Confederate troops who wanted to rid the land of Yankee influence. And another tale tells of pitched fighting between two ragtag militias who somehow managed to fend each other off of the land. It wasn't a strategic battle per se, so the truth around the area is a bit muddy, as well as less was documented. There have been numerous reports of tapping on cars on this haunted bridge, and according to those who have experienced it, the noise happens only at night, and it's only when you're on the bridge itself. And some people will park on the bridge and turn their headlights off. The tapping is said to begin and sound like metal is lightly tapping on the car. The sound is unexplained, but is definitely not from wind or no other natural phenomenon that can explain the sound. And witnesses say the noises came in rapid succession as if the ghosts are trying to notify the passengers. Nobody can really be certain whether the entities have malicious intent or not, but one thing is for sure, something otherworldly lurks in the shadows of Patterson Road. And those up for the challenge can type this address into their GPS. It's 14349 Patterson Road, Houston, Texas 77084. And I went a couple of years ago with a group of friends who are like extremely big thrill seekers. As soon as they got their license, they wanted to travel anywhere to these any haunted spots they could get their hands on. And the closest one, or the first one they could think of, was the Patterson Road. And I'm personally terrified. Like, I'm a huge scaredy cat, so when they asked me to go, I was like, no, I really don't want to go, but they convinced me. And I remember I covered my ears and I was curled up in the ball in the passenger seat. And when we parked on the bridge, we turned off the car. And I remember my friends told me later they heard knocking and tapping, so they turned on their flashlights to the window, and sure enough, there was a handprint outside the rear left window. That was definitely not any of ours. We did take a picture, but I don't talk to those friends anymore, and I don't even know if they'd still have the picture. But out of the experience, it was a large-sized hand, and it looked like whoever it was had long fingernails, like they didn't exactly take care of them. We even measured our hands against it, and none of ours matched it. It was terrifying. I really wish I still had that picture, because, oh my god, it was terrifying. But the second time I went, I actually was like, yeah, sure, I can face my fear this time. So the night we went back, it was either on Halloween or maybe a few days before. But unfortunately for me, there was another group of thrill seekers, but their plan was to actually walk into the forest. Hold on, let me show you a picture of exactly what I'm talking about. Where is it? It was insane. Not what I was looking for. Okay. It's a very, very dark part of Texas, or at least Houston. It's more like away from the city, so there's a lot of like forests and whatnot, and there's not that many street lights. So when it gets dark, it gets really dark. And when we went inside the forest, there was like so many spiders and whatnot, obviously what you would expect. But the one thing I didn't expect was that there was no wind whatsoever. Like when we were out on the road, there's like a breeze, a slight breeze or whatever. But when we went inside the forest, it was so like there was no wind. It was dead, like it was silent, nothing. You could stand there and you couldn't even feel somebody's breath.
Oh my God.
Everything was so
Yeesh.
still and it was creepy and it was dark. And one other creepy thing was that there were abandoned campsites everywhere. Like people would camp out, I guess, for the night to see like what ghosts they could capture or whatever, but it was creepy about like they just left their stuff. They didn't decide to pick up these tents or whatever. They left them there. And my friends claim they saw orbs around the forest, and at one point I still don't know if that's what I really saw, were a pair of orbs in the far distance that felt like they were looking at me, and I knew for a fact we were the only ones there because since it was quiet, I could hear the people around me, and I know for sure I would have heard sticks or something in the distance because there's so many sticks on the floor, branches and everything.
Yeah.
And this was like October, so there was like falling leaves. You would hear the crunch of the leaves, but there was nothing.
Damn.
And one member of the group claimed they felt someone touch them, and it felt a cold spot despite the usual hot and humid weather and zero wind that was going by. And we did almost get lost in the huge forest. With Google Map, all of our Google Maps were glitching out for no reason whatsoever. They were trying to take us to the other side of the forest, which this forest is absolutely huge. And we were getting lost, like it was telling us to go one way, another way, and everybody was like, what's going on? We were all looking at each other like but luckily we did ping exactly where we had left the cars, and we were like, okay, well, the moon's kind of come up this way. I remember when we were going into the forest, the moon was like barely coming up, so we decided to follow the path of the moon, and sure enough we got back to where we were. And I never went back again, and I never want to. Because
That's crazy.
that was absolutely terrifying.
See, I'm like, it sounds really scary, but I'm like that kind of person that I'm like, if I won't die, like, I might go check it out. Like, if I were there, like, I'd go.
Yeah,
just
no,
to sit there and see if I hear or see anything.
Yeah, after the first time, I was like, yeah, I can do that. Like, obviously, we did it the first time, nothing crazy happened. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it again. But then they wanted to go inside the forest, and I was so against it. But obviously, because I was the only one, and they couldn't exactly leave me by the car, I was like, all right, I'll go. And I never want to do that again. And I wouldn't recommend, I wouldn't recommend anybody going in there.
No, I don't know about getting out. I'm not that crazy, but I'll sit in the car with the doors locked. I'll sit in the car. Yeah, but no, I'm not gonna get out. Hell no.
They're
crazy for that.
They are. I can't believe they would do that. Oh my god.
That's a different kind of crazy. First of all, it's a forest, regardless of haunted or not.
It's a huge forest. I was reading through the website, and obviously, like I said, this is more like away from the city, so it's just nothing but like forest, and it's dark and whatnot.
Yeah.
I remember reading the website, talking about the spot, and in the comments, somebody said they found a dead body by the road, and I was like, you know what? No.
I'm good, honestly. I can live without this.
I can live without it. The fact that I know it's like across town from me does not make me feel better.
It's far, but still too close.
Still a little too close for my taste.
Yeah, no. That's creepy though. Like, I mean, to know that like that part would have been where like where like a war was going on and like people would have been dying in that area. It's like it's really hard to say that there wouldn't be spirits just kind of there, just lurking. Because I mean that's a lot of death, and I mean not everybody can cross over or like stuff like that. So that's creepy.
Well, they talked about the tapping and whatnot, like to kind of I guess warn them or ward them off. It reminds me of the story about those kids in San Antonio. I don't know if y'all heard that story.
I have not.
No, I haven't either.
Indulge
The
us.
one where the okay, so as far as to my knowledge, where I can think about it right now,
Mm-hmm.
so there was a school bus of kids, right? And a train can't exactly slow down. So I forgot exactly
Oh
what
my God.
happened, but either something happened to the bus where it got stuck or they stopped on the tracks, but or there was somebody in front of them that was stopped. I don't know what it was, but um the train came and I think everybody in the bus died.
Oh
And
my
to
God.
this day, if you park your car on the railroad tracks, if you put flour on your car, you can feel the kids push the car out of the way,
Yes,
Oh,
and
I did
I've
hear
heard about
about
that. I
it
this.
have heard
look
about that. Yeah.
Now I
yeah
remember. As soon
Yeah,
as you
now
said
that you
like
say the
flour on the
flour,
car, I was like,
yeah.
wait.
Yeah, I have heard
yeah
about that actually. Yeah,
and
people would like put
similar
flour on their
Wow.
car and then drive through slowly, and there would be handprints like all in the
yeah
flour.
yeah
Yeah,
that's
I
what
have
that
heard
part
about that.
reminded me of.
Yeah.
Texas just has a lot of haunted
Another
stories,
thing that I
huh?
kind of want to test out.
Yeah,
Oh
well,
yeah, that's one thing for sure I want to test out. Because
Let's just take a road trip, put some flour on the car, and just see what happens.
just see what happens.
Just see
Oh
what
my God.
happens.
I definitely want to do
I
that.
think the story wasn't that like. I think it was like because you know how buses always have to like stop on the track like right before it
Mm-hmm.
and like
Uh-huh.
open the door to make sure a train's not coming.
Hmm.
If I remember correctly, they did that and then like I don't know if it was like an old bus or something, but like when they moved forward, it stopped on the tracks.
Yeah, something like that.
And
Now they
then the
stop
train was coming.
they stop before you hit the railroad tracks and they look both ways before they
Yeah.
cross.
And they like open the door. But like if I remember correctly, they like started to go and for some reason like the bus just like stopped on the tracks and they like couldn't get it to go and they noticed like too late that a train had started to come and the train can't obviously trains can't stop like that. They're kind of like semi trucks
Mhm.
and
Right.
like they couldn't get the kids off in time. So the train just like smacked into the bus and it killed all of them. So yeah, people were saying like if you drive by and like put flour on your car and stuff, that they'll like touch the car.
Yeah, they like push it out of the way because they don't want the same fate as
Yeah,
For
for people
anyone
what
that
they
drive
had.
else.
by. Yeah, that's
That's,
crazy to think about. Like if
yeah,
that's actually true.
I remember hearing about that when I was little, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's crazy!" And now, like to this day, it's still crazy. But
Yeah,
I really want to go. That's the only place I probably ever want to go.
yeah, for sure. When I heard about that, I was like, when I heard about it, I didn't have a car, and I was like, damn, I wish I had a car so I could go. And now I have a car and completely forgot about it until now. So when I come back, road trip,
Oh
let's
my
go
God.
see.
Dang, that's crazy. As
That
soon as
is
you like the thing is like when you first said like bus and train, I was like, dang, I know how this ends.
yeah.
And as soon as you said flower on the car, I was like, wait, I've heard about this one.
Yeah, you were like in San Antonio, and I was like, no,
Yeah, I
I
completely forgot it
know
was
what happened
there.
with the kids,
Yeah.
yeah. And you were like, yeah, the bus and the car, and I was like, or the train, and I was like, oh no. Then you were like, yeah, so people were saying if they put flour, and I was like, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like it
I don't
instantly
know where it
clicked.
is, and yeah, I didn't know it was in San Antonio. I don't think I ever knew, but
I think it's in San
I did
Antonio.
know that.
I remember somebody telling me it was, and I now I have to check. Now I have to check it out. Hold on.
Let's
I
get our
have to
facts
figure out
straight.
exactly where this is. San Antonio bus.
Flour on car, train, railroad. I don't know.
Yeah. It's in San Antonio. San Antonio's infamous ghost tracks.
Dang.
Mm.
This
Wow.
is where exactly is it? 2902 Shane Road, San Antonio, Texas 78223.
Interesting.
Well, I say we make a plan and we record our findings.
Road trip.
Road trip. And the next podcast will be like, hey guys, so remember when we were talking? So we went and this is what
just
we found.
crying hysterically.
You know, they took the car and the fingerprints.
Take our own pictures. I'll bring my camera. Yeah. I have a camera. I have a photography camera.
Bring
I'll bring that.
Just get multiple photos and nobody can say it's edited.
Yep. Gotta buy like extra.
Get some Polaroids.
I would love to show you guys the Patterson Road one just because I had been and it's not as bad. But there's another one that I've been to where we tried going 3 times, and the first time it was blocked off because a tree fell and it blocked the road, so we couldn't go. Mind you, it's probably way darker than it was when I was at Patterson. Like, it's insane how dark it was. What was it called? Hold on. Haunted Cemetery. Devil's Road. It was called Devil's Road.
Okay.
It's in Huntsville. And I remember I went I went 3 times, and the last time I went it was on a Halloween night and there was cops there cuz they, I guess, regularly get people to go on Halloween and they can't exactly trespass at a cemetery, so they had us turn around, but they didn't give us a ticket or anything. But I remember it was so dark. Like, even with like your lights on and everything, you can barely see in front of you. And apparently, I guess if you sit there with your car off, you see these orbs flying around. Like, hold on.
That's crazy. Devil's Road.
Devil's Road, or I guess Demon's Road.
Demon's Road. Very interesting name.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Well, the second time we went, I think I chickened out, and it like everybody was like, "Oh, okay." I'm glad, because I mean, it was freaky. It was so freaky. Like, I wish I could describe how dark it was. Like, saying you're in a dark room and you bring out your flashlight and you can only see a foot in front of you, even though your flashlight's like pretty bright.
No.
Yeah, that shit was scary. Oh my god.
No,
the idea of orbs flying around and it's near a cemetery. Okay, so when the third time we went and we got pulled over by the cops, there was already a first car in front of us had already just gotten stopped, and they check the car to see if you have anything, which thank God we didn't have anything. But I remember we were parked on the side because the cop told us to wait, and I could see the cemetery. Like, this is the first time I could see the cemetery, and it looks very old. Like, I'm looking at a picture right here, and it looks like this. It's old as hell. And I remember there was a cat. There was a cat right next to the car, and they were not fazed at all by us. They weren't fazed by a car. You would think they would, because Huntsville is basically like where I was, the Patterson, where it's like
that's pretty old.
There's a lot of there's like a lot of trees. There's like, it's nothing like the city. So seeing a cat and it not being afraid, either it was somebody's cat and it was dumped, or I don't know. But I remember my friend was like, "Go out and pet the cat, get the cat," because I'm a big cat person. And I was like, "No, I don't want to get it." But I was like, "Oh, but that cat's really cute." But it was staring at me. And I was like, "But I really want to get the cat." So I went out of the car and I tried getting the cat. And that's when it walked away a little bit, but it didn't run. Like, it was still staring at me. It didn't hiss or anything, it stared. And that still freaks me out. It's because you would think that a feral cat would, like, take off at this point, but it didn't.
Yeah, they would take off or at least hiss if they, like, didn't feel like they could move or anything.
Yeah. And I was like, that's really weird. So I was like, you know what? I'm getting very creepy vibes. I'm gonna just hop back in the car. I don't know why I got out of the car in the first place. Insane for that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that picture reminds me. Have y'all seen that? Okay, and it sounds crazy, but like at the same time, like I would totally do it, like either for free or like as a job. Have y'all seen that lady on TikTok that like she cleans
Oh
gravestones
yes,
and like she'll
Oh
tell you the story
yes,
of
yeah.
their
I've seen
life?
it, and it's like so like I think it's like the nicest thing to
Yeah,
do.
no, seriously.
It's
Like some people are probably like,
beautiful.
"What the fuck is wrong with her?" But I would totally do that. And like knowing about like their life stories and stuff like that is also just a really sweet aspect of like her videos.
Yeah.
But like seeing these gravestones just reminded me of that because I was like, I would clean that right now. That needs to be cleaned.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And like I
I
know
love
she
her
does
videos.
some of them. I know she does some of them, and she doesn't know like any family members or like anyone who would give her permission to clean them, because she would ask for
Yeah.
permission first, obviously.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But if she couldn't find any relatives, any living relatives, she would just go ahead and clean it for them
Yeah.
anyway. And I just think it's like the sweetest thing that she could do
Yeah, no,
for
absolutely. When I
them.
first saw her videos, I was like, this is the sweetest thing ever.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Like,
And it's
not
very
only are you
satisfying.
right, it's satisfying, it's sweet. Like, not only are you telling us about their life and, you know, reminding people about them and their like memories and stuff, but you're sitting here potentially keeping them company. I'm a firm believer in that. Like, she's potentially keeping them company, and, you know, maybe she talks to them after she records the videos or while she records it, whatever. And, you know, they're just getting their gravestone cleaned, and, you know,
Yeah.
there's nothing to it. She's just doing it because she wants to. And, like, that's just, that's so admirable. I love her videos. I could literally watch them for hours. I have
Same.
at one time watched her videos for hours, actually.
Yeah, no,
So
I definitely at first I saw them and I was like, you know, like I'm glad she's doing it in the daytime and not in like,
right, yeah, I
because
wouldn't do it at night
I
though.
would
Yeah,
be I
that's
would be
a little bit
creeped
different.
out if it were nighttime.
Yeah,
I wouldn't. But
I mean, at night, just for two reasons. Like, I'd be creeped out as fuck, but also I feel like I wouldn't clean it good enough if I couldn't see what I
exactly.
was doing.
Yeah. But
But
it's very nice. Very
yeah, for sure.
satisfying. And she gives like a little bit of history of
Yeah, I like that
them,
she
and
tells
it's
their
just
like
like,
life history.
yeah. And it's just like so sweet.
Yeah, and some of the things are so sad because it's like, you know, like a lot of the people like one I just saw, she was like the guy's death date wasn't right because of something I can't remember quite what she said, but like his date wasn't right of when he died. And so she was like, I'm gonna point out that like his date's not right. He actually died like a year later. And it's like it's nice to know. I don't know. It's like a comforting feeling almost that like for me, because I believe in stuff like that, that like, you know, someone's taking care of something that's theirs and keeping them company while she does it for that, you know, period of time. And it's nice. I would totally do it. I just don't have the materials.
Yeah, no.
I would do it though. I love her videos. Extremely
Yeah.
satisfying, especially when she like rinses it all off at the end.
Oh yeah, and it's like almost shiny, and
Pristine.
it's just like
Yeah.
wow. Like
Like that's
So
crazy. Just
satisfying.
a little bit of scrubbing and this thing looks brand new.
mhm.
It's crazy. Well, um, does anybody have any personal paranormal things that have happened to them or experiences or like someone else's that they've, you know, been told or anything like that? I personally have two experiences. They're kind of about the same,
Mhm.
but slightly different. Because I was different ages. But living at my mom's house when I was about maybe 5 or 6, the way our house is, it's kind of like the front of the house, you have the front door, there's like a middle wall, and then the garage door. And our like the layout is like pretty open. So from the garage door, you can literally see all the way into the kitchen, like the back like window of the kitchen.
Mhm.
So like you come in through the front door, it's the living room. There's a little like half wall divider, and it's kind of like the dining room, what could be like the dining room area. And then on another wall, which is now the half wall because we've had renovations, it's another half wall. It's kind of like an island kind of thing, is the kitchen. And in like there's like the kitchen, and then there's like a little back part to the kitchen, which is like by the back door. I don't know if you can visualize that. I'm not the best at explaining. But basically, we used to have the setup to where like it was the living room, there was nothing in the dining room. It was the kitchen, and then our like kitchen table, dining table, whatever, was in that little back part of the kitchen. And there were 3 windows, and we had like this what's the one with 6 hexagon how do you say that, hexagonal table, hexagonal
Okay.
table.
Yeah.
Whatever, however you say that, yeah. So it was basically a hexagon. And so the sides kind of matched up with the windows. It was really weird how it worked. I always thought it was extremely satisfying. I loved it. I don't know if my mom did that on purpose or not, but it just kind of worked out that way.
Uh-huh.
But basically, when I was 5, 6-ish, I used to see, like, when I would go out, like, only at night, like, obviously when lights are off and stuff like that, because sometimes I would, be a really fat kid and try to sneak into the kitchen for some snacks. And I was like a bit of a mama's baby when I was little, so I would also try to like sneak into her room and like go lay down with her sometimes. But there used to be a shadow man that would sit at the far end of the table by the windows, and he would just be there. And I never got a feeling of like malicious intent. I never felt uncomfortable. Like, of course, at first, because I'm small, there's this shadow of a man, sitting at my table in the dark. Of course, I'm scared at first. But more and more as I would just see him and he was just kind of there. He never moved. He was never in a different spot. He was always sitting in that one spot, and he was just there. And so I never felt, like in my story, like he felt this entity's, hatred and anger and all of this stuff. Like I never felt any of that from him.
Uh-huh.
I didn't exactly get a feeling, so to speak, but I did kind of feel comfortable, kind of. Like after I stopped being scared, because, this scary shadow thing, and like I just kind of was around it. Like I'd walk into the kitchen and I'd just like do what I needed to do, and I'd walk away. Like you know how when it's dark you like want to book it back to your room, and like I felt kind of comforted like walking back to my room in the dark. As a kid, like the dark is scary regardless. So I don't know how to describe the feeling I got from him, but I know me and myself, I was kind of comforted by his presence almost. So I don't know if that's to speak for maybe it was someone I knew, or someone I was related to. I'm honestly not sure. He wasn't there at first, and he was there for maybe like 3-4 years until I was about 8 or 9, maybe 10. After a while I stopped seeing him. I would kind of look obviously more and more. I would like keep the lights off. I'd look at the table and I'd try to see, if he was there. So I don't know if it was because I was young and a kid that he was there. I don't know if it was just protection because I was young. Because like I said, I felt comforted by him. Not entirely sure, but it was just, it was just that weird like feeling, and I was like, oh well, I'm kind of miss him now that he's like not there. He was my little midnight snack buddy.
Right.
And after a while I stopped seeing him.
Sorry.
Snack buddy.
I think that's so cute.
But yeah, after a while stopped seeing him, and it was just like, okay, well I guess he's gone now. Nothing ever really came of that. Like I said, he really never moved the entirety of the years that I saw him.
Right.
Like it was just that was just where his spot was. So yeah. I'm honestly not certain.
You never know. Maybe he didn't leave. It's just that, you grew out of that age. Like there's only a certain age that kids are able to see things.
Yeah, that's also what I think. Like maybe he's still there, but I just couldn't see him.
Yeah, after a while you kind of lose that sight.
Yeah, that like access kind of age. Yeah.
You
I
only
thought
had the
both
free
of those.
trial. You can't go
Yeah.
back.
The free trial has ended and
It's
I'm not
ended.
paying to renew.
What if he was like my buddy?
And he was like, bitch, come get your snacks, damn it. No, but yeah, I've thought about both. Like maybe he just went and, was with someone else that was, the age that I had first started seeing him at. Or, like you said, like I thought it too, like maybe I just couldn't see him anymore, but he was still there, in his seat, just watching me get midnight snacks without him.
That's crazy.
But
you know how jealous he
just...
would feel? Like you're eating snacks there and he's like, you're not talking to me, you don't see me.
And he's like, hello.
I'm here.
I'm right here. Yeah, no, but
sorry,
I don't know.
Snack.
I stopped seeing him for a while and it was just kind of like, okay, whatever. But I did have another instance. There was one night that I had started to fall asleep, and I guess I was laying in the position that you're prone to get sleep paralysis in. So not
position
quite
like just facing up.
Yeah, like on your back. Apparently on your back, and I don't know, like with your head in a certain position and like on your back, you're more prone to sleep paralysis.
Oh, interesting.
Especially if you don't like fall straight asleep or you try to keep yourself up, you're prone to sleep paralysis. Like if you're tired and trying to keep yourself up, but you're laying the way I was laying. I looked it up after the fact because I was like, what the fuck? Why did I have sleep paralysis when I wasn't asleep? And like I hadn't gone to sleep. But yeah, apparently there's like certain positions that you're more prone to get sleep paralysis in, and I just happen to be in one of them. But and this is kind of why I had a slight inkling that the shadow figure might have been my grandpa on my dad's side, who had passed away like long before I was conceived. Both my grandparents did on his side. And the only reason I thought that was just because I felt so comforted, like it was just that like I'm not scared, I'm not wanting to run back to my room and get away from this like shadow figure. But one of the reasons I thought that so much with this more recent event is because when I had sleep paralysis, I used to lay, before I like started hooking my laptop up to my TV to watch stuff when I would lay down, I would watch stuff off my laptop. So I was laying with my head towards like the bottom of my bed, and I had the laptop like next to my head. And the brightness was a little bit higher than I normally have it. And so when in my little paralyzed state, I happened to look over, like I was trying to move myself, and I looked over towards my closet and I saw a shadow figure of not only a man, which was about the build and height of the one that I saw before, but I also saw a woman standing next to him.
So
okay. I, again, normally like when you're like paralyzed, like have sleep paralysis, like a lot of people have this overwhelming sense of just like fear for some reason. Like you can't move, like your head is just like you're like trying to move but you can't, you don't know why, you're sleepy but you're not, and like you're asleep but you're not. But again, I just had this like really, really overwhelming sense of just comforted calmness seeing both of them. And it was just like that for a few minutes. Like I couldn't move and I was just like looking at them, and I like looked away and I like looked forward. I like closed my eyes and I took a few deep breaths, and I like wasn't paralyzed anymore after like a couple minutes. And when I looked back in my closet, like both of the figures were gone. I had sat up and I looked over the way I had when I was paralyzed and they were gone, and when I sat up they were like still gone. So I don't know if I had an opening in being paralyzed. I don't know if something became accessible and that's why I saw them or what. But
they were trying to get you another free trial.
Yeah, free trial. They were like, you want to resubscribe? Come on now. But no, like, and that was the last time I had seen either of them. And that's like one of the most recent. Well, I have another one, but that's like one of the most recent times that I've seen like a shadow figure.
Mm-hmm.
And like again, it was just like that overwhelming sense of just like, I'm comfortable. Like it's Gucci. Like, you know. And then they were gone, and I was like, okay, well, bye, I guess.
Bye. Yeah.
And I haven't seen them since. I don't know. But this time it was a man and a woman, and I was just like, Grandma, Grandpa, hello. Do I know you? But I don't know. That herb was just a really nice shadow spirit entity. But my brain just like instantly went to related because of how comforted I felt.
Right.
So I don't know. But that's my stories, my
Mm.
personal experiences.
I've got a couple. Well, obviously, we all remember Floyd.
Yes, yes.
That's one of them. But that's from like the last episode. If you really want to hear that one, you can always go back to the last episode.
Yeah.
But so this one happened back in like, let's see, what year was it? 2016. I remember because it happened like after, no, actually it was 2017. It was a year. No. Yes. 2017. So we had went to, like, me and my mom and my two siblings had went to my mom's homeland in El Salvador. Um and we had went because we had already made plans to go visit my grandpa's grave, since we were not able to attend his funeral due to the fact that he died like 6 days before my brother was born. So I remember we went, and there was like, after we had went to visit him, like a couple days later, my mom had an argument going with my grandma. Now, my grandpa was not a big fan of listening to arguments, especially between his wife and his daughter. So, like, there were times where he would be mad or whatever. I remember my grandma went out, and because she just didn't want to be at the house, like, with my mom being all angry and whatnot. So my grandma went out, and nobody else was in the house. It was just myself, my little sister, my little brother, and my mom. And I remember my mom was talking to me, and she was just basically like ranting about what had happened already, like between her and my grandma. And all I just remember seeing is I like the rooms that were like constructed were like, it's a big room, and there's two doors that come to that room. So there's one on the left side, one on the right side. And to get to that room, there's this hallway, and at the end of the hallway, like, to get into this hallway to go to those rooms, is a big door, and that big door is made out of metal, so it's pretty heavy. So, like, in order to close it, you would have to put some pressure onto it, or if you want to open it, you have to put some pressure onto it. If we want to keep it open on at night, so to like let the dog in, or like to get some breeze or whatever, we would have to pry it with a big rock. My grandma had this big old rock to pry it, right? So, that door is pretty heavy, so you have to put some pressure either way to either open it or close it. Well, I remember my mom was talking, and I remember looking at the door, and all of a sudden I just see this hand like grab the side of the door and just pulled the door and like closed it, right?
Hey, yo.
And slammed that door. Like, it was loud. Like, it
Yikes.
made me and my mom jump. My sister and my brother were still asleep. So I remember that door slam. It was so loud. And I look at my mom, and I'm like, ooh. I'm like, I'm like, Mom, maybe we should go to sleep, right? And she goes, what was that? And I was like, well, there was a hand. That's all I can tell you, is that there was a hand. So I think that was Grandpa. And she goes, oh, and immediately she was like, I'm sorry, like, because she would say papi, like dad. So she'd be like, I'm so sorry for me to be ranting like this. It's wrong. I'm sorry. And I remember the tension, like before she said sorry, was just like he was like on, like it felt like like somebody was annoyed or like angry, and I was just like, ugh, you know. And so then she was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to rant, like I don't want to have problems with mom, um but you know, it's just, you know how she is, right? And then immediately after she apologized, it was just like understanding type of feeling. And it was just like, I wouldn't say it's um like I feel like the reason he did that was because he just didn't want to see my mom and my grandma fight anymore. um so he was just there to just basically tell her, just give her time, just be patient, you know, she's here by herself. um but yeah, it was I wouldn't say scary, because like it's my grandpa, like I knew him and we all miss him, but hey. um but yeah, it was more of like he was just trying to be like, just, you know, give her some time, be patient. So the fact that I saw his hand, because I know it's his hand because there's like a specific mark on his hand, and I saw it and I was like, yo, like, what's up, grandpa? What are you doing here? um but yeah, it wasn't scary for sure, I would say. Like, even like to this day, I'll tell my mom like, yo, remember that day you were kind of mad and grandpa told you to shut up.
Damn.
Yeah, no, but
Grandpa said, "Stop all that nonsense in my house."
he said that. He was like,
I'm gone means I'm gone.
right.
Right? You said y'all tripping.
No, but yeah, me and my mom will have a laughing fit because of it. Because exactly what you said, like we'll be like, he didn't want that in his house, so we had to like quickly shut up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one. There was another one that, like, just like you, Ali, like there was, so there was like a shadow man that I would see, but it wasn't at my house, it was at my one of my aunt's house. She happens to live like close by. um and I remember I would have sleepovers there because uh you know, she would try to take me to church the next day. So I remember this one time I slept over, um and I slept in the living room, in one of the, like on one of the couches.
Mhm.
And I remember this one time I saw this really tall guy, shadowy figure, and he had this like specific hat, um and like a really long trench coat. um but it was like one of those like fashion trench coats, like a brown colored, like a light brown colored.
Mhm.
um and I remember seeing him at like, my mom, like my aunt has like the kitchen entrance as like an arch opening. I remember seeing him there, and like I didn't think of it much at the time, but I remember like him like waving and then just disappeared, right? So I
Mhm.
asked my aunt the next day. I was like, "Hey, like I saw something last night. I don't want you to get freaked out, but there was a guy here, um you know, and he was wearing like a hat and like a trench coat." And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's I forgot his name, but she called him by his name." And I was like, "How, like, who is he, like what happened?" And she goes, "Well, this was before I purchased the house, but basically he was a pretty old guy, but he was really tall, and um something happened that, you know, I guess somebody came in to check on him because they hadn't talked to him in a while or something, but they found him dead, like in the living room,
Oh wow.
sitting down on the couch." And I was just like, "Oh." And she was like, "Yeah, that was before like I purchased the house. That was like maybe like a couple months before she purchased the house." And so then she was like, yeah, I seen him a couple times, but she would tell me like, it's okay, he's very friendly, he's very sweet, like he won't do anything. And after that, like I had never seen him again, right? Well, fast forward to like maybe a year or two like ago, um my grandma lives with my aunt now because she needs to have round the clock care. So my grandma, like I went to go visit my grandma this one time, and I was telling her, like I was asking her how she was, like is she sleeping okay at night and blah blah blah. She's like, yeah, I'm okay. She's like, Mr. whatever, I can't remember his name, he keeps me company at night. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, yeah, I see him, like he'll sit like on the couch in the corner. And I was like, oh. And I was like, when was the last time you talked to him? And she was like, well, there was this one time I couldn't go to sleep, so I stayed up. And she just saw him and like waved. And then he waved back at her. And she was like, yeah, like I'll talk to him. Obviously, he can't say anything, but like I'll have conversations with him. And I was like, that's crazy, grandma.
That's crazy.
And like, whenever she told me that, I'm like, okay, like obviously, like I went and told my aunt what she had told me. And she was like, yeah, I know, like I'm there when she's having that conversation with him. And I'm like, what do you, because like my aunt likes to sleep next to my grandma. Like my aunt has two couches, the one in the corner, and there's one that's like across from where my grandma's bed is. And so she'll sleep on that couch. And she told me, yeah, this one time I know what night she's talking about because I was there. She couldn't sleep, but she was just up having conversations, and when I had asked her who she was talking to, she told me his name, and I was like, oh, okay. And then she like went back to sleep. She was like, okay, cool, good night.
All right, bye. That's
But
crazy.
all I know is that guy was really sweet. He like, even like when he was alive, he was a pretty sweet guy. Like he wasn't a very social person, but he was just like, whenever he was really sweet. So I know my grandma's in good hands with my aunt
Yeah.
and with Mr. Shadowy Guy.
Mr. Shadow Guy.
Yeah.
Mr. Trenchcoat.
Mr. Trenchcoat. Yeah. That's what I had to nickname him in that, because I was like, that's the only thing I remember is the hat and the trench coat. And that he was really tall. And I was like, I'm not gonna call him Mr. Tall.
Mr. Tall. Mr. Tall. And Mr. Trenchcoat, Mr. Shadow Figure.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's
how
funny,
y'all
though.
have these really nice like experiences, and here I am with these creepy like roads and shit. Like I was looking more into the Devil's Road one, I guess, and apparently a lot of rituals happen by there and whatnot. So that's why it's like very much cursed. And I was like, "Ee."
Yikes.
Sacrifices and whatnot. And I was like, ooh, I'm pretty glad we didn't go. Or we never made it. Well, we did make it, but we didn't. Well, I'm the only one that got out of the car. I'm the dumb one. I would not survive a horror movie. But no. If I have anything paranormal, it's usually like stuff in my dreams, I guess. Because I remember after my grandpa died, I remember shortly after, maybe even like the next day, I had a dream that, he was saying goodbye to me, and we did whatever, we would travel. I remember, because, okay, so at my parents' house, there's like a back gate. There's like a little gate. He built the back gate so he could walk to the corner store that's right behind the house so he could get the newspaper every day. And I remember, the last thing I remember was, I remember hugging him. I don't remember how he smelled, but at the time, like, he felt so real. And I remember there was a bright light like past the gate, and then I remember he walked through the gate, and that was it. I never had that dream again. But I think I see those things in my sleep.
Yeah.
Because not really like I don't really have paranormal experiences. Like I don't see shadowy figures or anything. But if I sleep, oh man, in my sleep, do I have some pretty crazy dreams, paranormal
Yeah.
dreams, kind of.
Yeah, I know that's like a big thing is like when people pass away, they come to people's dreams to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing.
Yeah, because you're like very open and vulnerable, and they can like get in
Yeah.
versus when you're like awake and conscious and like kind of closed off, so to speak.
Yeah. I remember I had one of my uncle. Um and I remember it like so clearly, and I remember like when I had it, I'm like I know I want to remember this for like the rest of my life. So I like tried really hard to like continuously talk about it. Because if I
Yeah.
don't, then I'll well, like one day I'll forget about it, and then I'm just like I'd feel bad.
You should write it down.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna do that after this. And only because I remember like it was such a beautiful dream that he was like we were all like together, like it was the whole family, and I just remember he was playing tag with his kids, and it was just like I seen him smile and laugh, and I was like, dang.
Aww.
And like I remember I told my parents the dream, and my dad was like, he was crying mainly because he hadn't gotten a dream yet, and so he was just like, when, like, will he ever come to me type thing.
Yeah.
And but he was like as soon as he heard me say like my dream, he was like, he came to tell you goodbye. And I was like, dang, bro. Like, but yeah, at some point my dad got his dream. I can't remember like specifically what it was. If I were to ask him, like, he'll probably tell me because he'll definitely remember it.
Yeah.
It was his brother, so. But yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that was like I know that you know having people come over in your dreams was like a big thing. I don't think I ever got a dream from my grandpa. I know my mom did, but
Mm.
me, I don't think I have. Maybe I have and I just don't remember it. Sorry, grandpa.
No
If you
offense,
want
just
to
can't
come over
remember.
into another one, I don't care. I'll remember that one for sure. But yeah, I know that, you know, people saying goodbye in people's dreams is a big thing that happens. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that it happens.
Yeah, for sure. Especially people that didn't get to say goodbye to them like before.
Yeah,
They get that little moment after. So
which is nice, very nice.
yeah, it definitely gives them that little bit extra.
Comfort.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
I just remembered. I don't have those like paranormal, like shadowy stuff, but I remember. Well, I guess a lot of my people in my family from my mom's side, because my aunt lives next door to us. They have dreams as well. Like I remember one time they said that they had a dream they were in church and my grandparents came to sit down with them and they asked how everybody was doing, and then they said that because when they walk to their garage they can see my backyard, and they said that sometimes they could see my grandpa out
Mm-hmm.
there, and like they'll see him because he liked to work all the time, like he was like hands on all the time, so he would be either walking, he would wave at them, or I don't remember if he would like be working on something, but I wouldn't hear or see anything. I've never heard about it before until they told me, and I was like, that's crazy. You're telling me that man's still here? Not in a bad way. I love you, grandpa, but
Like he's not gone.
He's
You
not
sure about
gone.
that?
Are you serious?
Like
no,
you want to go
like you
somewhere?
can
No
see
offense.
him and I can't. What am
Bro,
I doing wrong, bro? What, did I not think
did
it's
you
the
get an
cool genes in
extended
the
free
family?
trial? What is going on?
Bro,
What
Why
is
did
this
I
you
not
paid
phone?
get
for the
that?
subscription? You paid for
That's
the
crazy.
subscription.
It's like, man,
I don't
I
have
gotta pay for this shit
money.
without a free trial. Like everybody got a free
Mm-hmm.
trial and they pay. Like that's some bullshit.
Mm.
That's funny as fuck though.
Oh man,
That's crazy though.
it is.
How many
It's
people
very
have like
crazy.
similar experiences and stuff.
I know there's a lot of people who don't believe in all that spiritualistic stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, if you have that type of open mind, you get to learn a lot of like incidents or, you know, people who are really sweet and trying to protect you from things that, I guess, trying to protect you because it's not your time type of thing. Like those kids in the railway. Like they push you out of the way, trying to protect you because it's not your time.
Yeah.
So I find it
it's
very
hard for me because of my experiences and stuff. And like stuff I've heard and stuff I've seen to just not believe. Like I totally understand how people don't and like why they don't, but for me personally, I just can't not believe in that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be forcing myself more to not believe than to just believe. So but I totally understand why some people don't want to believe and why some people just don't, because I mean, hey, to each their own.
Yep. I don't know. I've had my experiences. I'll believe in it. I have an open mind. I'm not totally like rejecting it, but if there's some things that are like inconsistent, then I'll be like, here's why I don't believe in it type of shit.
Yeah.
But you know, if I see it, if I've experienced it, I'm gonna believe in it.
Yeah, like how are you not gonna believe what you saw? Like
yeah, exactly. It's like I saw Mr. Trenchcoat. Like
yeah, like it's not like you just heard about it and we're like, yeah, okay. Like you saw it and they saw, or like you saw him and they saw him. So it's like, well, I mean, he's obviously there.
Yeah.
Multiple people are seeing the same friendly man. So, but yeah, it's hard to not believe when you have your own experiences. So, but understandable when things are just kind of like a little fishy to be like, well, I believe, but not in that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so now every time I go to my aunt's house, I'm like, hey, Mr. Trenchcoat.
Walking is like, sup?
How's your day been?
I just really want to call him Richard. I don't know.
I'm gonna ask my aunt.
Richard.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask my aunt, or I'm gonna ask my grandma and be like, hey, what was that guy's name? And then I'll text you. I'll be like, Mr. This.
If it's Richard, I'm gonna laugh so fucking hard. If his
I don't
name
know,
is
maybe
Richard.
I could research. I could probably find out what happened. I don't know. I can't. I'll see.
Yeah, but well, I believe that is all. Am I right?
Yes, we're at the hour 30.
All right. So, with that, we are going to end this episode here. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of your day and to send some shivers down your spine. Catch you on the next one.
Out.